What's up YouTube? This is Foxtail Digital coming to you again with Black Girl Stocks. And this is another segment of our top 3 option plays this week, where we're just gonna go over a few different trades, stock fundamentals, and different strategies that you can do to make it through, okay? But first off, let's do a recap of last week's trades. What I've started to do here is putting this little line here so we can see literally where our week starts. I wanna keep things brief. Last week, our trio of potential trades was from MRVL, GDX, and INTC. Hoping that NVIDIA's earnings last Wednesday could send a ripple effect throughout that semiconductor sector. But as luck would have it, INTC was, it barely, moved in the direction that we were looking for outside of Monday. There was a little jump, but nothing too much to look into. And then also looking at GDX, yeah, it was pretty much a yawn there. You can see we pretty much fell throughout the weeks. MRVL, on the other hand, now that was a stock that we did see some pretty good gains with, and this really happened on the 21st, okay? So this was around that Tuesday we started to get some traction. We were looking at the March 15th. $75 calls. And when we were looking at it, it was around 1.72, but you can see that we had a huge increase all the way up to 2.84%. So that's a pretty big gain and great short-term profits. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into this week's trades. Okay, so the first stock that I want to look into is IWM. That's iShares Russell 2000. It's an ETF, and right now it's trading around $199.89. We had a pretty decent drop during after hours of 39 cents. All right, so the first thing I want to look at, the volume profile indicator signals. I want to kind of focus on this top layer here. So this is our daily chart, and you can see we've been in a pretty decent uptrend, but it looks like we've had some resistance here around this 205, 200 zone, and we reached that peak again, but I didn't see a lot from the daily chart. I'm going to move a little bit closer to the intermediate chart, and one thing we can see is a potential triple top formation, or honestly, this could be a head and shoulders pattern. And so you can kind of see this here on our candlestick review card, what that pattern is going to look like. How we have those two peaks for our shoulders, the left and the right, and a potential head here. Okay, so that is an interesting pattern to detect, and it'll let you know there on the back. So like I said, if you haven't gotten your Black Girl Stocks candlestick review cards, make sure that you click in the link below and get your cards there. So if that is true and that is forming, that's something that we could see for a potential reversal. So this implies that we could have potential downward price movement after failing to, move above these resistance. Another thing to note is that we are currently at a yearly high. So this means that the price is close to the yearly highs, and that could trigger volatility around this price and potential profit taking, which would make the stock go down. So with these few signals, if we saw IWM continue in this pattern, we could have a pullback potentially down to this high volume zone of around 195 to the value area low of 192. If I was going to have a bearish entry for IWM, I would set my alert for around 199.10 for an entry. And once we kind of see that stock move below supports that we've had from last week on Friday, then that would be a good indication that we could see this stock, move further down. So we'll just keep an eye on IWM. Now, as far as the actual option contract, looking at IWM, I'm going to be looking at the puts, and let's go for April 19th. 189 put. Okay, I know what you're thinking. The premium is a little bit up there, around $250. The delta is decent, but the volume in open interest is great. I mean, open interest is almost 100K. Theta is low. This is something that we could possibly see some movement with next week. So stay tuned for that. All right, and the next stop up is DIS, that's Disney. And right now we're trading at around $107.74. Now, one thing that I want to go ahead and start off with is the volume profile indicator on the daily chart. Okay, so we can see that Disney stock right now, it's in an uptrend, but we can see this noticeable gap up that we had around the 8th of February. and it jumped from around $99 to $107, which is huge. Looking at the volume profile point of control, this dotted white line that represents the highest trading volume in this range of price data. Another thing that's interesting is that this high volume area in nodes are below the stock price. So wondering if these areas, because there's a lot of activity there, I wonder if they act like a new support while the stock continues to soar. Another thing that's interesting is the MACD indicator. It looks like we could have some bearish movement there with the MACD line crossing below the signal. Outside of this potential gap fill, it looks like we have a lot more trading volume down here around this $90 range to $99, with the stock being at a node right now, this high volume area, if we have a return to this POC and use it as a potential support area. So if I was gonna have a bearish entry going into next week for Disney, I would probably have my entry around 107.30 to 107.50. We'll just wait and see what happens next week for Disney. Okay, now as far as the actual option contract. Okay, so for Disney, I'm looking at the April 19th puts, 105 for the strike price. So this is kind of similar to the last stock that we were looking at, IWM. It's around $220 for the premium. The delta's pretty cute. It's around 34, it's decent. The theta is great. Volume is very interesting, it's a lot higher. So just kind of see what this is giving for a swing trade just going into next week, but the open interest is all right. Implied volatility is cool. So this is something potential for next week. Okay, and the last stock on our list is going to be BX, that's Blackstone Inc. And one thing to kind of note is on the daily chart up here, we're kind of at a trend line support. So you can see we have a slight trend. It's been trending on this white 50 period moving average there. This potential bearish crossover here with the MACD indicator. And it looks like it's been in a pretty strong uptrend for a while, but we've had some resistance here around this 132 and also in a similar pattern to what we saw with IWM here around 127, 125, 130, around that area. Now around $111 here, we can see this is where our point of control is, our POC. Now these were resistance points. If we were to continue in this uptrend, I'm wondering if the stock would have a pullback and use this high volume resistance zone as a new support and continue moving upward. But on the short term, it would be bearish. Moving to our intermediate 4-hour chart here, we can see even more how looking like that head and shoulder pattern, we have those 3 peaks where the stock just was not going to cross. Seeing that could be an indication, you know, we can see ourselves come back down here potentially to this 120 or even lower. So I'm wondering, like I said, if this continues in this pattern, could we potentially see the price return to this 120, 122? So that's something that we're looking at for next week. So if I was going to have an entry, I'll probably have it around 124.60. And I know that's a little bit further away than where we are, but if I was going to anticipate that bearish 60. Now, as far as the actual option contract for BX, look how beautiful that strong bearish candle looks, very lush. So as far as the option contract goes, I'm looking at June 21st puts and 105 for the strike price. Now it looks like 200 is the wave for this video, but this is just, these are what have been coming up on my radar. So you can just see off the bat, we have higher volume and open interest here on the 105. The delta isn't amazing, but the theta is okay. Yeah, I don't even know why I picked this one. But I mean, there's some potential there. So we'll just kind of see what happens next week for BX, but that's what I'll have on my watch list. All right, but that's it for this video. If it was helpful, if you found it entertaining, please make sure that you click that thumbs up button for me. It really helps the channel. Also subscribe and click that notification bell so that you get notified anytime I upload a new video for you guys. All right, and I'll catch you on the next one.